So in a way, we are moved by love, not by greed. We love our mission. We want to be good stewards of the people and the resources we have. So it's not trying to grow the business, but growing the business and creating wealth is a byproduct of what we do. What I want is to create more leaders. And how do I create more leaders? I want to follow the greatest leader of all humanity, the history of humanity, which is Jesus. And what were the aspects of the leadership of Jesus that made him a great leader? And I came up with this 7 marks of leadership. Of course, we respect everyone's faith. We are not a Catholic organization, but we are a Catholic-led organization. They know that the person that leads this company is Catholic, and we make sure that everyone follows those values, which are.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Catholic Founders Podcast. I'm your host, Silas Maynor. If you've been listening for a while, you know that I am passionate about this idea that we can transform society through business. But often we get caught up in this kind of tech scale mindset, right? Actually, last week we just had Fed on talking about this, but thinking we need to reach millions of people online to make an impact is not the only way we can do this. And today's guest is a powerful reminder that some of the most profound work for the kingdom happens at the local level, one patient and one employee at a time. So today I am joined by Dr. Daniel Tataje. Daniel is a dentist by trade, but he also is the founder and CEO of Mercy Dental Group based in Madison, Wisconsin, my home state. And what started out as just his own small practice through acquisition has grown to 13 location group with 140 employees. So what makes Daniel special and what his story is truly remarkable isn't just the growth, it's actually the why and the how. And we talk about in this conversation beating private equity with virtue. So why retiring dentists have chosen to, in many cases, to sell to Daniel for a lower price. You can listen to learn why. I won't spoil it. And then the 7 marks of leadership, how Daniel uses Christian virtues like integrity and humility and service to build the best place to work in the industry, which is a title that they had received for the Madison area. And then subsidiarity in business. The way he manages 13 different clinics, allowing each one to kind of maintain its own local brand identity is a really interesting example of subsidiarity in practice. And then the consecration of a business. So this revolutionary moment that Daniel stopped treating God as a kind of co-pilot and gave him full ownership of the company, that was a really key moment in his journey. So Daniel also recently released a book called The Leader Humanity Needs, which we have linked in the description. I'd highly recommend you get that. Somebody with the amount of wisdom that he has, you should read his book. Okay. I haven't read it yet. I do have it on my desk, right at my fingertips here. I'm going to be reading it soon, but I can tell you from having this conversation with Daniel that book is going to be good. So whether you are running a service-based business or growing a startup, I think Daniel's insights on treating every person as a unique gift will change the way that you look at your calendar today. All right. Enjoy this conversation with Daniel. All right. Welcome to the podcast, Daniel. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm very excited to have a conversation with you, and yeah, so I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, man. I'm super excited to speak with you. This is something I've been looking forward to for many months. We had to like book it out quite some time in advance because you're a busy guy. But no, I'm really excited for this. So before we get into, I guess, can you just give people kind of a quick introduction as to who you are and what company you run and just like the very, very basics, and then I'll give a bit of a background context after that.
My name is Dr. Daniel Tataje. I am a dentist by trade, but I don't practice dentistry anymore. I just run a dental group that I founded and started and own called Mercy Dental Group. Based in Madison, Wisconsin. It's a group of practices. We acquired 17 practices, but we merged those practices into 13 locations. So there are 12 for-profit practices and one nonprofit clinic that we have here in in Madison. So yeah, so that's my business. We have about 140 employees, and we grew very fast and continue to do so. So very
Amazing.
blessed.
Well, we'll get into the story in a bit, but we originally met at Cent Ventures. Like, well, I think it was a couple of years ago, two years ago, and I was surprised to find somebody else who was from Wisconsin. First of all, I was like, wow, no way, nobody's from Wisconsin, but you were. And you told me about your story, and I was like, wow, this is just really, really fascinating. So we've had a call since then. I got to learn a little bit more about the story. So I think this is going to be really good because this is the exact type of person I want to have on this podcast, because you're not running some tech company that's like trying to make a perceived impact at scale, right? You're building something that is you could say making a very, very large impact at a local scale, right? On local people, you have customers that come in on a regular basis, you've got employees, and these are the types of businesses I think that as Catholic entrepreneurs, we can really do some very good things in because we can affect our community locally without trying to say, hey, we gotta build a company big enough to support the entire US. So we'll get into that a little bit. So can you talk us a little bit more about the size of the business day? You mentioned you have 140 employees, 13 practices in total, but just give us like a bit of the scope of the size of the business.
So yeah, so our size is a decent size. It grew very fast. So we have 13 local clinics, as I said, 12 for-profit clinics and one nonprofit. Without counting our nonprofit, we have we're around $22 million in revenue a year. We serve about 60,000 active patients and more. So we build a really great reputation in the community, which is helped us grow
Yeah.
very fast.
I mean, 60,000 is a pretty large number for Madison, if you ask me. Like, I think that Madison isn't the biggest place in the country, and having
Yeah,
60,000 customers is pretty great. You know, what I am curious about is just walk us a little bit through the story of how you ended up getting started. So if I remember correctly, you had started your own practice and then eventually kind of went on to acquire one. But walk us through those steps, and I'll maybe interrupt you along the way to ask a couple of
yeah.
follow-ups.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, we started with a very, very small practice. I acquired the first practice in 2015, and it was a tiny practice with four operatories, four employees. And yeah, we started doing with the vision of trying to use our talents, our knowledge and clinical skill to make a positive impact in the life of people. And what I wanted to do is just to treat people. I started the company a little bit out of frustration, seeing how the dental world was becoming very, very cold. A lot of investors came into dentistry and started, treating everything as a business and prioritized numbers and just not caring too much about patient care and taking care of the people. So I thought I could do something different, and my goal was to just make one practice great. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to just treat people with the dignity that they serve, and just making this practice great. But that message was very, I guess, different. That led to rapid growth in the first year, double the size of the practice, and I acquired the second practice
In 1 year.
in 1 year. Yes, and then actually in the first year we acquire at the end of the first year we acquired two practices, and then little by little, I mean, never really looked to grow or for acquisitions. It was always word of mouth. I started getting calls from dentists that wanted to transition their business to us, or they wanted to retire, and I was the best alternative in their eyes, I guess, just to treat their patients with the love and care that they did, and the same with their staff. So
And was this because, like, I'm not super familiar. You mentioned there's a lot of private equity firms coming into the space. Did they have the option most likely to sell to private equity, but they still like they knew about you and they said, we'd rather sell to you? Is that
yeah,
true?
in every almost in every case, we have doctor seller, the doctor that is retiring, has another offer from private equity that is more attractive than mine sometimes, right? So they have a better offer in terms of like financial terms. My offers always come with, I'm going to take your legacy and just improve in every area, but also I will take care of your staff and your people. And I'm very conscious of that promise and the trust that these people put in us to continue their legacy. So that it's always like every day I just tell my staff, I make a lot of promises when I acquire practices, and I want to make sure that I fulfill those promises. And yeah, it's just I guess that's my secret, right?
Yeah. Do you think that I mean, it's always fascinating to me because, the private equity roll up and cut costs and that option is like it's so ROI focused that investors might like it because it's very easy to do this hypothetically. The human aspect is removed, right? Because there's nothing in the statement that says, "Hey, we're going to get you lots of return on your investment," that has anything to do with humans, right?
Yes,
But you're
exactly.
obviously dealing with humans in every business, especially in a dentistry practice, right? It's really fascinating to me. We had a discussion recently within the guild, the Catholic Founders Guild, of people wondering, hey, what are the advantages of being a Catholic business owner? Because one of the guys who asked this question, it was based in Mexico, and he's like, man, there's a lot of people who are undercutting or being deceiving and they're getting business from you and I'm being pretty honest and that's costing me business in some cases. And I think this is a clear example where, having our Catholic values is definitely an advantage, right? In your case, you were able to get a better price for these acquisitions, and in probably some cases, you probably found deals that were not even necessarily going to market per se. It would be my guess, but that's also really fascinating. The timing. How do you go to? What was the timing from starting to then having where you have now 13 practices?
10 years total was, yeah, about 10 years. Actually, nine, because it was before the 10th year mark that we acquired our last two. So, and yeah, we continue to grow.
Nice, nice. That's awesome. I love the story there, and I think that it's pretty obvious for anybody listening why this worked out. We can dive into a little bit more about how you treat your employees and what that means. But just for a takeaway for people is understand that there is a reason why people want to sell to Daniel versus some private equity firm, and we can implement that into how we do business as well, and bring the human aspects into it, right? One thing I'm curious about, I think we talked about this in our intro call a while ago, is about subsidiarity, right? It's a very big topic in Catholicism about making decisions at the local level. How do you implement that into your practice of running these dentistry businesses, like with some back office support, but allowing people to make decisions locally? Can you just walk us through that thought process?
Yeah, autonomy is very important for us, right? Like, so what the way I see it is that, well, we value everyone's talents and everyone's, and actually my goal here is for every person to flourish and to develop those talents and to grow, right? So every one of our values, when we talk about respect, we talk about the dignity of the human person and the uniqueness that we are all created with, not only created with, but the experiences and the things that makes us who we are. So we see everyone as a unique gift. And that's the type of leadership we have. So we tell people, like, you are very valuable. What can you bring to the table? How can you make us better? Of course, we create systems and things that we give them tools for them to develop their talents, but every practice that we have is different. So it's not a cookie cutter kind of model. So if you see in our website, I mean, you'll see every practice. We serve local communities, and they are branded differently. We have our own identity or local identity because we serve different communities, different populations. But the practice itself, the identity is different because it's led by a local team. We're here to, of course, support as an organization and provide the values. We're united by our values, right? By what we believe. So my role as a leader is to just set the stage for people to develop those talents. So individuality and all is something that we
So that's quite interesting. I mean, most firms when they start to do, I guess you could say like a roll up or they start to expand, they try to build a single brand to build a sort of like I guess you'd say like a brand affinity. But it's interesting that you're saying that you focus on a local network instead. Is that, and you found that that's more valuable than, or I guess you haven't tried the other way, but you just do that because it is unique to the local character that you're serving?
Yeah, I guess it's both, right? Like, so we have the identity as an organization, so that people that are joining the organization, they know they joining Mercy Dental Group,
Yeah.
and they know what we stand for and what we do and how we treat people, how we see dentistry as an instrument and all these things. But then when there is like the local patient base that they serve, and so because each practice is a result of three things. So one is the legacy of the doctor, because they are all acquisitions, right? Like, so when we acquire a practice, we don't acquire a practice just to acquire a practice. We see something, we want a win-win all the time, right? So I want to make sure that we provide what this retiring doctor wants, and also I ask, how is this practice going to advance our mission, advance and make us better, right? So that means that this practice has to have something great. I never want to go in and make radical changes and just change the identity of the practice. I want to continue something, right? Like, so I want to make this practice that was already great into something greater. So we add our systems, we add our culture, we are the things that makes us great, right? So that is the first aspect. The second piece of the puzzle is the community we serve, right? So depending of what kind of population, what kind of patient base you have, what patients expect, and all those things is part of the identity. And the third one is the local leadership. What is because one thing that we want to do is to build a local, great, I guess, relationship between patient and doctor, right? So the patient that chooses these practices, a part of the decision making is the people that they will see every day, right? So the doctor, the local doctor and manager make up the leadership team, the people that so the patient connects with them. So that is we consider that as part of the identity of the practice. So we build the practices around those three things and create local brands. So the
This is
branding, the name, and everything is specific to those three things.
Are you looking to hire people who actually care about your mission? You should get in touch with Verso Jobs. Verso Jobs is a platform that uses a gamified application process to find candidates who actually have the right skills and mission alignment with your team. Joe and the team at Verso Jobs first understand your needs, then they go out and they headhunt the best candidates and present you with highly aligned profiles in very short order, oftentimes turning around profiles within a few days or a week. They also won't break the bank. So whether you're hiring for your startup, school, parish, or nonprofit, Verso makes it easy to find mission-aligned talent ready to build the kingdom. Visit versojobs.com to get started. That's Verso, V-E-R-S-O jobs.com. To the heights. This is really fascinating. I hadn't necessarily put these things together in the past, but it seems to me that if you, because a lot of times you'll see like, obviously with franchises, you have the same brand across multiple places, but even with people who are building, I think like some of these apartment complexes, like with funny names, you'll see them around the country. But it's more interesting if the local community can feel connected to their space, right? And I think that this may not have been necessarily your intention, but we are seeing currently a somewhat of a public pushback against private equity doing this because it is kind of anti-human in a lot of ways. And as a result, you can have this growth and still maintain that local character of the practice. I hadn't necessarily put these things together, but it's fascinating. Also on the leadership point, right? If you get bought by private equity and all of a sudden there's a new CEO that you've never met, right? And they're all out and they're basically in the sky in your mind, right? You don't see them, you don't know anything about them. And then when decisions come down, the local leadership, if they're obviously they've got maybe some vested stock interest, they're going to tell you, hey, this is how we have to do it. Sorry, I can't control it. The CEO said so. And just that feeling of like, I've been in this situation myself where you're like, well, that's stupid. Like they don't understand me. They don't understand the history of me in the company here. And obviously it can lead to a sort of like feeling of negativity and you'd rather go somewhere else where they do treat you individually. And also it's it's a disconnect between the local leadership having no responsibility, right? If they don't have responsibility over those things because, CEO or the top co said so, then they start to abdicate responsibility locally potentially. I'm not saying that's always the case, but that's definitely a potential outcome. So I think this is a new feather I have to put in the cap from what you're sharing here.
Yeah, I think one of the advantages I have is that I am not a person with an MBA or a
Yeah.
business person. I am a dentist, right? So a lot of the disconnect that happens in private equity run or dental practices is that they have never seen a patient in their lives. They don't know what it is to just to do that. So I'm not asking people to do anything that I haven't done, right? So I have been at the practice level. I have worked in almost every position in a dental practice because of my own situation. I am a foreign dentist. I came into the U.S. and when I started, I didn't have a license, so I had to work as a dental assistant, as a dental technician. I have done insurance. I have answered calls. I have scheduled appointments. I have done everything, right? So to just climb up and just to get to the point, and that is a proof of how. And I tell people this, my story is so valuable, just like you are. Everyone has this story that makes us who we are and makes us more valuable, and that is, I guess, the advantage I have. You add that, my faith and the belief in the way I see, the business as an instrument of God's grace. I want to make the claim the world for the Lord and just spread love. Right. I want to use the business. I see the business as an instrument. So I want to be a good steward. It was a gift from God, and I want to, so all those things make a business even more powerful, right? So yeah,
Yeah, because it gives you a certain sense of real purpose, right? You're not just here to make more money,
exactly.
because what's the point of making more money at the end of the day? You can't take it with you when you die, but you can take more souls with you, hypothetically, right? You can be like St. Paul and
That's right.
well, I should say St. Peter and be a fisherman of men, right? I like that a lot. So I am curious, there's a lot of things we could dive into there. I think we've covered some of those things well enough, but I'm very curious how you try to integrate the faith into the business, because I'm assuming that probably you may have a majority of Christians or maybe even some Catholics there, but it may not necessarily be a Christian business per se. Obviously, Mercy Dental is a nice name that kind of implies some of this, but how do you integrate the faith into the practice broadly? And then, of course, how do you try to make sure that that is passed down into the local management, because they do have the authority to run things in their own way?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I guess the answer is by living out my faith, right? I so that's one part of the answer, right? So everyone knows, I don't go and preach Christ in at work, but I everyone knows that I believe in God, and that's the center of my life. But the second aspect is I did create the values of the company, and the values are all Christian values. They are not outspokenly Christian, but the way I design it, and that's part of, my what I write in my book, or I wrote in my book, is that those values are based on the leadership of Christ. What I want is to create more leaders. And how do I create more leaders? I want to follow the greatest leader of all humanity, the history of humanity, which is Jesus. And what were the aspects of the leadership of Jesus? And that made him a great leader. And I came out with this 7 marks of leadership, right, which that's what I preach all the time to my staff. I make sure that, I mean, we are a value driven company, and those values are Christian values. Of course, we respect everyone's faith. We are not a Catholic organization, but we are a Catholic-led organization, right? So there's a difference there. That they know that the person that leads this company is Catholic, and we make sure that everyone follows those values, which are, integrity, respect, positivity, empathy, teamwork, service, and humility. Integrity is necessary to build trust, right? And trust is necessary to build relationships. And all that we do is build relationships, relationship with our patients, relationship with each other. And so we encourage people to have all integrity, but integrity really is associated, or is only achieved through holiness. You can try to all you want to be a person of integrity, but in reality, that's, only accomplished when you are a person of faith. So it's an indirect message. We call people to try to be people of integrity. But what I really mean is live a
Yeah,
life of holiness.
yeah.
So the second is respect. Respect. What I mean with respect is the fact that everyone is unique, that everyone is valuable, and everyone is talented. We all have talents. We all have a place in this world, and the world is an incomplete place without you with your talent. So I tell that to the staff. It's like some people don't hear that enough, or never heard it. That they don't feel that they are valuable, and they are beautifully created by God, right? So and they are necessary in this world. I want people to use their talents and flourish and continue to advance, and by doing so, we grow. If they grow, we grow. So everyone, I tell people, everyone is a gift, and the patient that you see in today is a gift too. It's a unique person. It's an honor to meet in this case, the only Silas Manor in the history of humanity, right? There have never been one like you, or there will never exist another one like you in the future. So it's really an honor to have you here. So that's how you see your patient. Your patient is
Mm,
a gift. So the patient could be in this chair or be somewhere else. It could be spending time with his family, doing something that he loves, and instead is choosing to be here. So his time is a gift. As part of his life.
mhm,
Cannot make more time,
yeah.
and you have to make sure that you value that moment, and you just do try to make a positive impact in the life of this person using your dentistry skills, your talents, your dental skills, or just listening, or just smiling, or just having a conversation, and just trying to just impact his life, but at the same time, he's a gift to you. So that's what I mean with respect. So, and positivity, every leader, because what I'm doing is trying to build leaders, and at every position, every leader should be a positive leader. And positivity doesn't mean ignoring that difficulties exist, or pretending that everything is fine. It's just understanding that in every situation there is a positive outcome. There's something, even the most negative situation can create a great outcome in your life. I just was sharing the struggle when I came to the US and I couldn't practice dentistry, and how I value that now, right? Which was something that was a negative thing is actually a very positive in my
Yeah,
career.
because you had the experience to go through those. I mean, your re-education, I guess you'd say, like going through the ranks to come back up. That's definitely informed the way you run the business now, I assume.
That is right. So I always say, it's better to light a candle than to curse darkness. What are you doing to create a great environment where you are? The great environment is necessary for the patient experience. Patients can feel when there is tension, when there is people are disgruntled at the workplace, and so I always tell you need to be light of the darkness. So if your coworker is not having a good day today, how can you be the positive light in his life that day, right? So that's positivity. And empathy is treating people how they want to be treated, right? Like, we established that everyone is unique, right? Now it's not necessarily that the golden rule is not treating people how you want to be treated, but actually is how they want to be treated. So in order for you to know how they want to be treated, you need to know them, right? So you need to know your coworkers, you need to know your patients, you need to, in a sense, open the gift. We said that everyone is a gift. When someone hands you a gift, you don't just put the gift aside. You want to see what's inside, right? Like, you want to unwrap it. So you have to get to know, you have to take the time to know your patient, to know your coworkers and everyone you are here to serve. Then teamwork is related to just trusting in everyone's capabilities and uniqueness, right? How that everyone plays a role in an organization. I always tell them, the most powerful thing you can say to someone is, "I believe in you." And why is that? Is because that transfers power, and that is exactly what God does to us, right? Like, so God doesn't need us to accomplish His work. He wants us to participate, and He wants us to, So He tells us, I believe in you, right? So I believe in your talents and all that, and it's an invitation. So it's the same in the workplace. We are invested on each other's success. We want to make sure that people grow in every aspect, and they develop their talents. So that is teamwork. So delegation is, sometimes they talk about, yeah, you have to delegate to free up your time. No, you have to delegate because as a leader, you have to believe in people. You're invested in people's growth, and that's what teamwork is. Then we go to service, and service is just an act of love, right? So we in our industry, we have such an opportunity for that. We are a profession of service. We're here to make your day, and you have to. I tell my employees, that person that you have in front of you is the most important person in your life at that moment. You have to be invested in improving this person's life. Right now, we're talking, and you are the most important person in my life right now. I have to make sure that I give you, we're investing an hour of your time. I have to be responsible for that. And I'm here to serve you, to make, I want you to finish this meeting and just
Don't
be
worry,
at the,
you're on the right track, man. This has been gold.
and then finally, humility, of course, the king of all virtues. And we can talk about humility for hours, right? So, but like St. Bernard of Clairvaux said, what is when he was asked what were the most important virtues, and he said humility, 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 because that's who Christ is, a humble servant. So I preach all these values all the time to my employees, and I actually make an effort for that everyone listens to them. So I have things like the new employee orientation, right? So when they join the group, now I don't get to do every interview, so I don't know everyone like I used to. I used to be involved in every hire when the organization was smaller. So now I do these new employee orientations when I do quarterly meetings with new employees, and I bring them to the headquarters office to meet them, to know who they are. It's very important. I tell them, like, I want them to know me, and I want to know them. I want to make sure that, I see what their values, I see them as gifts, right? And I want them to feel valuable. They all have my cell phone number. They all You can contact me at any time, but I do talk about the values and tell them how important they are for us. That makes us who we are. So they usually come out very inspired with this talk, but also ready to use their talent. So there is way a lot more than dentistry, and what we do in every industry. I always encourage people, you have to see your business, your job as an opportunity to make a positive impact in whatever person and everyone you touch. So anyway, I'm just
No, this is really good. I want to point out one thing there that's interesting. You mentioned just now, like, it's more than just dentistry. It's more than just whatever you do. But a lot of people will say this, but they don't have the conviction of it, right? To me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems obvious that the reason that you have that conviction is because you have conviction about your faith. And your faith then leads you to say, well, if this is true, then the way I treat every person has these consequences, right? I'm not just doing this. Like, it's not self-evident unless you have true faith and true belief that every human is created with a unique soul. With your goal should be to try to help them get to heaven, etc. Because we believe in this, afterlife and all these things. Correct? Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's correct. So that's the way I see it myself. Now, I'm not out there like preaching that specifically, but I don't think it's necessary. It's implicit.
Quick interruption. If you're a Catholic business owner feeling bogged down by the administrative busy work that prevents you from moving your business forward, I have a solution for you. My EA and I started Paraclete VA to bridge a specific gap, connecting Catholic entrepreneurs with high-quality Catholic virtual assistants around the world. Several members of our Catholic Founders Guild have already used this service, and by offloading that administrative and marketing tasks, they've been able to do the work that moves their businesses forward without any of the important admin tasks getting dropped. From finance to customer success to marketing to content creation to general admin, we can find you what you're looking for. The cost is simple. $500 when you hire and $500 if you're still happy 30 days later. If you're ready to stop doing repeatable tasks so you can focus on the things that actually move your business forward, email us at admin@catholicfounders.com. Tell us what you need. We'll make a handful of introductions. You interview and you hire. Most of the time, it takes about 1 to 2 weeks to make a hire. It's that easy. So, what are you waiting for? All right, back to the show. No, I agree with that. That's the whole point. Is it will probably draw people in, especially the contrast, right? This is the interesting thing about, some people will complain that, hey, we're in a really difficult and evil time surrounded by many greedy people. But the benefit, I guess you could say, not call it a good thing, but the benefit of that is that when people are acting in a virtuous way, in a good way, it very much contrasts what's normal or what's common in the culture, so it can draw more people in, right? And this is why we have kind of cyclical society anyways in the first place, is that we kind of go from one side and then to the other because we get sick of one or the other, right? Just
Yeah.
naturally as humans. So I like that. One other thing I want to also clarify with you, and this is partially because I'm going through this myself, is how you talked about it a little bit, but how do you really implement and make sure that those seven values are kind of really impressed upon their memory of all your employees, aside from the orientation and then bringing them there personally? Are there any other ways that you make sure that's really like understood?
Yes. So they are being repeated at all times. We do have events and things that we do for that, like the meetings, and every meeting we start with that. With a meeting, like we have this conferences kind of meeting once a year. We have manager meetings, so we make sure that everyone especially the people in leadership positions know and repeat these things, so it's just a repetitive message. Also, we have things like our values in every practice, and every practice is lunchroom has the values there and explained. So yeah, so it's something that is repeated at every opportunity we have. So we have a manager meeting and they're doing a presentation. At the end of the presentation, the values are there to remind people what we stand for. So it's just trying to live out
Yeah.
our values.
This is awesome. I mean, it's one thing to a lot of people say, "Oh, it's great to say these things." Like, you obviously you maybe communicate these things, and then it goes to hopefully ends its way to the customer, right? To in your case, the patients. But then what about treating your employees? So how do you kind of translate this belief in them, aside from the commentary that you are valuable, your skills are valuable? What are the benefits that you provide to the employees, or what are the ways that you treat the employees that really show that you do actually believe in this respect?
That's right. Yeah, we do have multiple. You know, we try to be the best. I mean, we we win the best place to work in many years. We've worked many years in a row. And why? Because we provide the best. You know, people feel listened. People feel like they're definitely heard and they are valued. Their input and all that is important. But also the benefits that we do. I mean, we try to improve all the time. You know, that we offer all kinds of benefits. But one, I guess, a couple of unique or one unique benefit that I we provide is the loyalty trip, we call it. Every year we reward people that have been in the company for 5 years, and we send them to an all-inclusive resort vacation in the middle of winter,
In Wisconsin,
with
that's a big deal. For
with
anybody
with
who
their
doesn't
spouse.
understand, Wisconsin
Yeah,
winters are
so
not ideal.
yeah, and actually, we're going to Cancun next month with the employees that turned 5 last year, but also the employees that turned 10. So this happens every 5 years. So it's always fun to see. Last year we had about 42 people that were on that trip. It was so much fun. That's one of them, but we always try or seek for opportunities or benefits. We also have things like we have additional benefits for new mothers for maternity leave, and we give them extra time off. And they always encourage the majority of our population, our employee population, are women, and we love babies, so we encourage that. Yeah, so a lot of benefits, and trying to always look for more and give back and make sure that people feel.
Do you see, I mean, back to this point of advantages, do you see that there is a retention benefit compared to other people in your industry because you do these things, not just because of the benefits themselves, but also the actual human aspect and the treatment of the employees?
100%. It is what I will like every time. And in our industry, we have struggling with like shortages in hygiene or for dental assistants. And so it is hard. Employee retention, acquisition, talent acquisition is the biggest challenge of any dental industry, at least here in Wisconsin, but nationwide. And I always tell people, like creating a great culture is the answer, but also being careful that not creating a culture of entitlement. People need to be challenged. I tell people every time we're interviewing someone, we tell people, we are trying to be great, but we are not. We are not a perfect organization. How can you make this organization even better? Like I need people to people need to be challenged. If we tell people, everything is great and you're going to be happy and you're going to, you're going to come into a perfect environment, then they get disappointed, right? So, or not only that, like I think that's the problem with that we're experiencing with job hoppers. People that come here, they don't stay because they're promised a perfect place or whatever it is, and they think that they have nothing to do with it. They don't want to be a part of that change. And then when they realize that the place is not necessarily great, they move to the next one. So one thing is that, make sure that people are valued, but also that they are challenged. And the mission driven aspect too is so important. We're doing so much more than dentistry here. And we are people that with compassion, that serve people with compassion. That is such a powerful message. How are you going to use your talents to improve the life of someone else?
That this is really, I mean, I hadn't necessarily put those things together, but this lack of understanding that you are not served by your employer per se. Obviously, that your employer is meant to serve you in some regards, but it's not. I'm showing up here and you just serve me as an employee per se, because this kind of implies a one-way relationship, that employee to customer and then employer to employee, but it's a two-way street in all cases, because all of these things are human relations basically, right? They're connections and relationships. And that's a very interesting, like, I don't know, we could go probably down a rabbit hole of thinking like, why does that happen? But
Yes.
I I'll save that for another time. I have some more content to create based on some of these things you've mentioned. I think this is really, really interesting. You talked about most of the core things I wanted to cover. There's two last major questions, and then I would like to go through some rapid fire before we wrap up here. How do you guys, as a company and the local practices, how do you engage with the community in any way? Is there any way in particular that you do that to like give back to the local community?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there are multiple things we do, but the main way to give back to the community is our nonprofit arm. It's called Mercy Dental Missions, and we do have a threefold mission. One is at the local clinic that serves people, what we call people in the gap, which what that means is is for people that are not in poverty level. They are uninsured, but they don't have access to government funded insurance or anything like that because they don't qualify but they don't make enough money to pay for traditional fees. So these are people that are neglected because they neglect dental care because they can't afford it and they don't have a way to, they don't have insurance. And so that's the first one. So we have a discounted local clinic. Our fees are about 50% of traditional fees, and it's an easy qualification process that we go through. And you can be seen in that clinic. It's a beautiful, beautiful facility with all the technology and everything that we do have in every clinic. And then the other part of the mission is the Day of Mercy. We have local events that we do a few times a year where we see patients in poverty or people in homeless people or refugees. We actually work with the Catholic Multicultural Center here in Madison, and we do, the triage. They serve a lot of those patients, and patients get to sign up there for the Day of Mercy, and then we just do transport them to the clinic. We do the triage at the Catholic Multicultural Center, and then we go and see them at the clinic. And we run those days with volunteers that are all come from our dental practices, and it's a beautiful event. So we're trying to do more and more days of mercy like that. That is a free dentistry day. And then
That's awesome. I mean, just want to like comment there. I think that this is something that's severely lacking in America right now is that we just constantly think, oh yeah, there's social programs for everybody. And we complain about the challenges of our local communities, but it's because nobody is taking responsibility like you guys are and finding a way to help them.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and the third aspect of the mission of Mercy Dental Missions is the mission trip. So we do at least one mission trip a year. Last year we went to the Dominican Republic to serve an orphanage there in a rural area of the Dominican Republic. And this year we're going to Peru, actually to a Catholic orphanage there in Lima, Peru, called Casa Hogar, that was started by a priest here from the Diocese of La Crosse. That beautiful, beautiful mission was started 40 years ago, and it has grown. But they have multiple local orphanages, so a main orphanage and connected with multiple other missions around. So they serve around 1,000 children there. So we're gonna go and do our first mission trip to Peru. Because the mission of Mercy Dental Group as an organization is to make a positive impact in the life of people by using our talents. So, as a private company, we can only impact the lives of the people that can afford dentistry. That's where the idea of the clinic and the idea of the nonprofit came about. That kind of like closes the circle because now we have access to all people,
Hmm.
so not only the people that can afford dentistry, but people that can't afford
Yeah.
it as well.
At this point, you've heard me mention our mission many times. We're building an army of Catholic entrepreneurs who are committed to reinserting God into the culture. Well, if this mission resonates with you, we want you to be part of the Catholic Founders Guild. You can think of this as kind of an association of Catholic business owners who share the same mission and who take this idea of bringing back God into the culture actually very seriously. We're currently around 50 members and growing quickly. And when you become a member, you can find other Catholics to do business with, to buy services from, to invest in and alongside. All this is possible with our member directory. And on top of that, we do have 2 to 3 calls each month with the community. One to discuss a particular topic, like stewardship or competition, some of the recent conversations we've had on that. One to learn from an expert and ask them questions, like our recent one on the tax changes, or our next one coming up with Ellen Twomey, who is talking to us about how to grow our sales and our business, but in a virtuous way. And the other is more open-ended community hangout call. These will happen every single month. There's also no specific time commitment ask of you when you join the Catholic Founders Guild. If you want to be heavily involved, you're welcome to. If you just want to be a member of the Guild but don't really have time to attend the calls, all we ask is that you stay committed to the mission of building for God and be open to meeting other members of the Guild when they reach out. To join, the first step is to upgrade to a paid membership on our Substack. Think of it like Patreon if you're not familiar. Just go to catholicfounders.com/subscribe. It's only $10 a month or $100 a year, so literally anybody can afford it. Oh, and I forgot to mention, many of the members have ended up actually finding customers within the community within just a few months of joining. So what I'm saying is you're likely going to get your $100 back, even if not directly through sales, at least in value and advice from the Guild. We will see you on the inside. That's really powerful. I mean, I really appreciate this. And this is a great way to kind of shift into the last major question would be earlier on, you mentioned that you don't necessarily want to always focus on the total revenue of the business. You're not like, how can we grow revenue per se? Can you just speak a little bit about, I guess there's a couple angles here. Number one, it's a larger business. You said you're doing 22 million a year in revenue. If I woke up with that many people under my kind of care, I would probably have some anxiety around like, how are we going to hit these targets? So I'd be curious how you perceive not necessarily focusing, as you will, on the revenue or the profitability per se, and like making that the core focus. How do you do that as a leader to still say, I'm going to do my best to steward these people and make sure they're still employed? And then how do you, and maybe you leave it in the hands of God, I don't know. And then how do you also balance that with like some of these other pieces that you say, hey, we're going to be willing to do free dentistry for a day here and there. Like, can you just speak through your thought process on this?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so the not focusing on numbers doesn't mean that you just are irresponsible with the business, right? But it's just the way you see the business. The business is not here to make me rich or, create wealth. The business is here as an instrument of doing the work of God. So in order for this business to continue to be that, it has to be a financially stable, um, a well-run organization as well. So it's just that it's just the focus. The business is just a vehicle to accomplish our mission. Therefore, we have to be responsible and fiscally responsible with this business. The motivation of increasing revenue and having all this, hitting all the marks and goals that we have financially is because we have the responsibility to continue to expand our mission. Acquisitions work the same way. I was having a dental clinic cleaning one day with one of my hygienists in one local clinic, and it was right after and I announced an acquisition, and she said, she was asking me, why do you do this to yourself? Why do you keep growing? Don't you have enough? So when are you going to stop? I'm like, no, I laughed and I said, well, we do this because we firmly believe in our mission. We believe that the people that are impacted by any of our practices are in a better position than if they will be walking into another dental practice. What we're doing, the way we see the business is different. So in a way, we are moved by love, not by greed. We love our mission. We want to be good stewards of the people and the resources we have. So it's not trying to grow the business, but growing the business and creating wealth is a byproduct of what we do, just through in our effort to continue our mission.
Yeah. And then on the front of, so just make sure I maybe kind of tie this together. So you're saying that the focus is, hey, we got to run this profitably, run this well. And obviously we need to make sure we hit certain revenue goals, but we're not going to do that at the expense of hurting our mission, because our mission first and foremost is to be the hands and feet of God in the world, right? We're taking care of his mission in the world. And the reason why we have ambition to grow that is so we can continue growing the mission and using our skills, because as you said earlier, the world is not complete without you using your skills, right? So
That's right.
that's helpful. But are there any other tangible things, like maybe specific aspirations or prayers that you say on a regular basis that you try to recall that? Because it's one thing to say that, hey, intellectually, I believe that this is in God's hands and I trust this endeavor, this whole enterprise to him. But what are the kind of ways that you intentionally on a daily or weekly basis say, I'm giving this into God's hands to make sure that I don't think it's my own and it belongs to me and it's here for my own benefit?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one thing that I always recommend people, especially Catholic entrepreneurs is something it was revolutionary for me. What I did that transformed the way I run the business, which was doing a consecration, consecrating your business to God. This is complete. I gave him everything. I am no longer in control. I'm not the boss. Just I'm prayerfully discerning every decision or major decision in this company because I'm just the CEO. I'm not. I don't own the business, right? So it's God's. Is I gave it to him. So everything has to be done in that with that in mind, right? Like, so what God wants us to do, and just daily prayer. One prayer I love is the prayer of Saint Francis de Assisi, "Make me an instrument of peace." And I that's something I have here in my wall, and I read and pray every day. So I want to be an instrument for the Lord, and therefore the business has to be an instrument as well. And so that will be my recommendation: is start with a consecration, give it fully to the Lord, and He will transform your business in the way you see it.
Amazing. No, I love that. It's really hard to put these things into words sometimes because as entrepreneurs, I mean, a lot of us have started businesses because we didn't want to work for other people. I mean, in your case, you saw kind of an issue and you're like, I can't stand this. I want to do it my own way. And that same mentality that's like, hey, I'm going to do this. Like it's kind of an internally self-focused thing where it says, I can do this. And it's very focused on control. And the idea of, let's say, we're going to run a business so we can have control, but then we have to realize, oh, we actually also have to release control to God. It's kind of like such an oxymoron. It doesn't make sense. But at the end of the day, like our whole life is like we have to ask the question, why are we here in the first place, right? God put us here. And what is that like? Why did he give us these skills, et cetera? Right. And it's hard to accept, but it is the truth.
But I experienced both, right? Like at the beginning, I was like, I was always, a very faithful Catholic. I mean, when I started, my faith was very, very strong, but I took a position of, taking God as a co-pilot, right? So don't worry, God, I'll take care of everything here. I'll let you know if I need you, right? So it was overwhelming. It was just really, I was drowning, with stress and everything that affected my family life. So I don't want to make it sound that everything was, perfect. A lot of business leaders struggle with the same, which is, invest a lot in the business and invest a lot of your time and you neglect other areas of your life. That happened to me. And people, especially entrepreneurs, and business leaders, they want to spend the majority of their time in the successful area of his life. This for me was easy. Well, like I'm talented for business, I guess. But then I neglected my family, my wife, my kids at some point because I was really drowning. I was taking everything myself. And this act of consecration was liberating and allowed me to cover the areas. Of course, the Lord entrusted the business to me, but also primarily my family, right? So it's shift the focus, and it was really transformative. Now, I of course keep growing in my role as a father, as a husband, but I see it differently as well. Like really, really, this consecration or giving the business to God was part of that transformation in my family as well.
Yeah, amazing. I know we didn't have time to cover that. I assumed it wasn't always perfect at the beginning, and you kind of learn these things as we go. That may maybe another
Yeah,
opportunity we could discuss this
I
and
I
understand
talk
this
about it
journey.
in my book
Yeah.
a
Well, this is
lot.
good.
So
I would like you now as we wrap up. Can you just tell us a little bit more about the book? What's it called? Where can people find it? And why should people read it?
yeah, so my book is called "The Leader Humanity Needs," and it is a book about leadership. You can find it in Amazon and just anywhere really. The Leader Humanity Needs. But what it is a book, a call to for people to lead. So the leader humanity needs actually is the reader. Right? So it's an invitation for everyone. I believe that everyone is called to lead the world to a better place. Again, using your talents, be light in the darkness. That's why in the cover, if you see here the cover, you see the sun overcoming the darkness. That
Hmm.
is actually who you can become. You're supposed to be the light in the darkness. So it's how to lead with heart and become a force for good in the world. So it's not necessarily a religious book. so people like atheists or everyone can read it and feel identified with. But it is based on the leadership of Christ, right? So I go in more depth about on the seven marks of leadership and my stories. I tell stories about saints too. So I mentioned Saint Mother Teresa, Saint John Paul II, Saint Padre Pio, Josephine Bakhita. A lot of saints. I introduced kind of like Catherine Drexel. Oh my gosh, amazing! A lot of saints who just kind of like back up my claims and just give them as an example. But again, it's not something that that only religious or Catholic people would identify with. So my goal was with this book was to just spread, at least spark curiosity, right? So it's a story of success through struggle, because a lot of it is my story. I use my story for all this to back up my claims. But I want to make a positive impact in the world using my talents and my story and everything. And the the reader can do the same, can be that positive impact or light in the world.
Amazing.
So
Well, I have it in my Amazon cart. I'm gonna order it right after this call. This has been really good. We'll skip through we'll skip the rapid fire part here, but I really appreciate this. Like I said at the beginning, you're the exact type of person I wanted to bring on. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs like you out there who are, not necessarily very public about what they do. I mean, you're obviously starting a book now, or you've released a book now, so you're a little bit more open about this. But I'm glad that I had met you at Scent, right? If it wasn't for Scent, I probably would not have, found a person like you. And we need more people like you who are finding ways to do this and to go through this journey and then do their best to make perfect their businesses. As you said, they'll never be perfect, but to do their best to pursue that. And hopefully other people can learn from this. I think that this is probably one of the most inspiring conversations we've had. I mean, we've had a lot of really cool conversations on here, so it's always hard to measure, but this has been really good. I mean, I think the value per minute of this episode has been very high. So it's definitely a re-listen type of episode. But
thank you so
anyway,
much.
thank you so much for coming on. We'll have to do this again, and I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to seeing how you continue to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you for having me. And I say the same. I am inspired by what you're doing, and all the impact you want to create in the business world is needed. And you're using your faith and being a good steward of your talents. And I commend you for that. We need more people like yourself too. So
Well,
I
thank you
will
for
be
that.
praying for you.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Appreciate this so much.
Yes, likewise. Take care.
Man, there is so much to chew on from that conversation. I think my favorite part was Daniel's definition of respect, probably not just treating people how you want to be treated, but recognizing that every patient and employee is a gift and an unrepeatable person in the history of humanity. Just like the total uniqueness and also the moment of time that you have with them is also unique. A few key takeaways that I want you to kind of think about would be the advantage of integrity. So being a Catholic business owner isn't really a handicap. It's actually a competitive advantage. We talked about this recently in one of the Catholic Founders guild calls. But people want to do business with and sell their life's work to, in this case, to someone who has a moral compass, right? The private equity firms lost those deals even though they were offering more money, right? Secondly, we've got mission-driven growth. Daniel doesn't grow for the sake of greed. He grows to expand the mission of serving people and using their skills that they have specifically as a dental practice. Thirdly, the challenge of ownership. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by the weight of your business, ask yourself, have you actually consecrated it to God? Or are you still trying to be the boss while asking God to just kind of help out on the side? I would highly recommend picking up a copy of Daniel's book, The Leader Humanity Needs. We've linked it in the description. It's a fantastic guide for anybody who is looking to bridge the gap between their professional success and their spiritual mission. And if you are a founder in Wisconsin or beyond, take a page out of Daniel's book, literally, and look for ways to engage your local community. Responsibility starts at home. We've published about this just recently. We started this 3-part series on building community, both for your family, within your parish, within your local community, with other Catholic entrepreneurs. I think we're at the point of this coming out. We should be 2 or 3 into that series on Mondays. But this is really, really key: is that we can start locally and build community and make an impact on our local cities and towns. As always, if this episode did inspire you, please do share it with a friend and help us spread the word. And if you're a Catholic entrepreneur, Catholic founder, or aspiring Catholic business owner, consider joining the Catholic Founders Guild today to find your tribe of Catholic business owners you can learn from, spend time with, do business with, etc. We've got a really great group of people growing day by day. I think we've got about 75 people in there at this point. and it's only $100 a year, so literally anybody can afford it. So if you'd like to do that, just upgrade to a paid subscription in Substack. All right, thank you guys so much for listening. God bless and happy building.